Welcome to the Supporting Chaos podcast. I'm Sammy.
Sorry I'm late.
Of course you are.
Sorry I'm late.
What's on your shirt?
Could be throw up.
I think I have a stain remover. I think this is yours.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you have wipes. That'll do. Oh my gosh, guess what?
Let's hit record first. Hi, and welcome to the Supporting Chaos podcast. I am Sammy.
And I'm Gracie. And we're going to have the conversations that we have daily with you guys. So put your slippers on.
Carpool slippers.
A little dirty. And sit back and relax because we are going to get deep into motherhood. And do not judge us.
We don't judge each other, and I think that's because we're sisters and best friends and we know everything. So the only rule is you can't judge us either.
All right, Wednesdays are a shit show. I'm a little scatterbrained today, but it's been a morning.
Wednesdays, I feel like, make me question everything because my husband's almost always out of town Wednesday morning or he leaves super early. And it's just the chaos of getting the kids out the door by myself the night before, not having him. And then this is like the only day we have to come be somewhere on time too.
And we're late every single time.
And we're late every time. And we have to be here at 10. But it's just a shit show.
It really is. And I was actually pretty prepared for like me coming into this morning. But then I did that thing where I like tried to wake up before my kids. 5:30, I go down the stairs. I'm so quiet. I'm skipping every single step that I know creaks. Like that's how quiet I am. You know, when you put your hand in the cabinet or like, you know. But then of course my like 4-year-old can just sense that I'm awake in 2 seconds. It was like, Mommy. And so it kind of threw me off. But then I went to a carpool and we were almost late. And you know, if you're late to carpool, you have to go inside and like drop them off.
Yeah, that's why I didn't send my kids to school on Friday. we were in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru and they made me pull around because they had to finish the order and we were going to be late. So I just figured we might as well not go to school because I was in my PJs.
Well, you know, type B people might get a little shit, but my type B sometimes comes in handy. And so like last week I went to go drop her off and we were late. It was traffic. It was not her fault. And then I realized I'm pulling up. We're late. I don't have a bra on. Not really like a real shirt. I have a tank top. I don't have shoes and I'm just a mess. And then I realized I still haven't unpacked from our trip.
At that. Some call it type B. I call it resourceful.
And so I had to crawl in the back of the car and get dressed. And my 6-year-old's like, oh my God, Mom. But you know what? It is resourceful.
Yeah. If it is hard if you're late and you're not wearing a bra or you're in your pajamas or you have curlers in your hair. You either have to skip school or you have to find a suitcase in your back, the back of the car.
Motherhood's hard. We can't be perfect all the time.
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Wednesdays. I feel like hump days are supposed to be like easier. And something about hump days just are like hard.
Yeah, because you're freaking tired because you already did it for 2 days and you still got 2 more to do.
And last night, I don't know why, when my husband goes out of town the first night, I never sleep well. It's like I think somebody is going to break into our house.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's not like he can really protect me.
Honestly, I'd probably use me as a shield to get himself out.
I feel like if there was a crisis, like I would be the one to step up.
Oh, yeah. I would be the one going crazy.
Like whenever there's a crisis, no one goes to the dude for help.
No.
It's always the woman who gets you out of a crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Anyways,
let's jump into this week's episode, which is...
I have a couple notes today.
She's a lot of notes.
I love notes.
I had to limit her notes.
I have one little page of notes. We're going to do this.
I have no notes.
Yeah, of course. All right, so let's dive in. And this is actually one of the topics that we are so passionate about. And I feel like we've wanted to have a podcast to talk about this forever. And I feel like I'm seeing it a lot on social media recently. This narrative that if somebody says that motherhood is hard or something about motherhood is hard, that they're complaining, that it's negative, that it's bad. And I just find that so annoying.
I mean, I think it kind of also, if you think about anything else in life, and this is, I think, why it's so annoying, because if you're like, ugh, my job is hard, I had a hard day at work, people aren't like, oh my gosh, your job's awful.
Yeah.
You know, but they do that with motherhood for some reason.
But also, I feel like we need to think about like the definition of hard. Okay, there's actually a lot of definitions for it. I looked it up.
I'm sure you did.
I'm sure you didn't. Hard. So, okay, this is one of the definitions. It says hard requires demanding physical or mental effort to accomplish.
Yeah.
Does that not sound like motherhood?
Yeah. But, like, hard's not a bad thing.
Hard isn't bad, and so when somebody says an aspect of motherhood is hard, and then you immediately say, like, "Well, they're complaining. Why are you a mom anyways if you're just gonna complain about motherhood?"
Yeah.
I just find that so silly.
So annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I always, like, talk about the examples. So, my husband in 2020, he's, like, an annoying overachiever. He decided to run 1 mile. He was not a runner at all, and then he just kept going and ran his first marathon. Now he's run, like, several marathons. I will tell you that the training for the marathon, I mean, I didn't do it, but just watching him was hard. Not one point where I'm like, "Well, it's hard, so why are you doing it?"
Yeah, it's hard, so you shouldn't have been a runner in the first place.
Exactly, like, if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be such an accomplishment,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you're going to law school and you're studying for the bar and then you pass the bar, if it was easy, it wouldn't be such an accomplishment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I agree.
that's why I feel like this hard it's just I don't understand why we think hard means bad. I think hard creates growth. I think hard kind of makes it worth it, and it's okay to say that things are hard
You
and
can say
still
that it's hard and it doesn't make you a bad mom.
Yes.
And I think that's what people are so scared of, like motherhood, marriage, all of that. Admitting that you're hard, like it's hard. I actually saw the other day in because I've been researching podcasts. I saw the
By
other day.
researching, she means looking on TikTok.
But I saw the other I really do have a bad I keep saying I'm reading I read something and I'm like, "No, that means I saw it on TikTok." But I saw something the other day that was like, statistically, that's a hard
Statistically.
word for me. There's a few sometimes I have a little stutter, okay, guys?
do
We're just
too.
gonna go with it. But,
I just blame it on being from South Carolina.
oh, I should do that too.
Then you can mispronounce everything.
Well, it was saying that in the workplace, one of like the biggest things to like overcome is learning how to like take constructive criticism positively. And so I think it's like, even like if you're a nurse, right? And they're like, hey, your bedside manner could use a little bit of work. I think it is kind of natural for everyone to be like, wait, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But I think when you really grow as a person is by being like, okay, wait, thank you for the feedback. Here's how I'm going to twist it. And admitting it out loud, just like motherhood, admitting it's hard, admitting like self reflecting and being like, yeah, that was really hard. It's not, I think it applies to more than just motherhood, but it's not that it's hard in a sense of like you're failing. It's hard in a sense that like, okay, that's good feedback to work on myself and become a better version of myself as a mother.
It's hard like you're running a marathon.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
the training from anyone who's run a marathon, I have no experience and zero desire to, let me just say that. But the training a lot of times is harder than the actual marathon day, right? Because the marathon, you have the crowd, you've been training for it, you have the adrenaline, you have the rush, but it's in the hard moments that make it so successful
So
or
true.
accomplishment. Okay, so when you came into motherhood, how do you say that? When you
does sound-
became a
When
mother.
I evolved into mother, blossomed. I
You
like
blossomed
blossomed.
into a mom. Do you think motherhood was harder or easier than you expected?
Okay, I think so. I have like a background in education and child development and all that, and I think what the hard part was for me because that I knew what a child needed. Like I knew that there are gonna be temper tantrums, and I knew kind of like the background behind like the psychology of like where kids are and like that developmental stuff. So I feel like the taking care of the kids part wasn't as hard to me. I think motherhood and the emotional and mental part of it was what like really surprised me about what was really hard in motherhood because you have to be on at all times. And I think it really fucking sucks, but like when you do put in the work, it works. And so, but we're just as humans, we're not designed to be perfect all of the time and be on top of it all the time. And so it's like, holy crap, this is a lot.
Wait, I think that is so true. That's what I actually find really hard about motherhood. There's a lot of things, but one of them is like you can't outsource it.
No.
Like at some point, I mean, you can outsource things, but sometimes like your kids need you,
They
and it
just need
doesn't
you.
matter how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
They need you.
And even if, like, let's say you do outsource it, like, let's say, like, I think of all these celebrities all the time that are, like, have, like, 12 nannies and whatnot. But I think there's still a mental, emotional, like, guilt with that, like, a
Yeah.
mom guilt with that.
But also, I'm team outsource. My goal in life is to outsource everything that I'm not good at. But I guess what I'm saying is there's things that you can't outsource. Like
Yeah.
when your kid has a bad day from school.
When they're sick and they just want mom to snuggle them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can outsource laundry,
yeah.
or I'd like to. I guess that's not true. I kind of do outsource laundry. I don't want to lie. Like there's things.
You sometimes outsource laundry.
Sometimes I outsource
It's
laundry.
okay. We can outsource
That
things.
is true. I still do laundry, but I have someone help me put laundry away because ADD. That's a whole different topic.
And I don't, but I just have huge piles of overflowing laundry.
But like if you're sick and your kid's sick, they need you.
I think that was one of my biggest, like, oh shit, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Was when I was sick and my kid was sick. And it was like, wait, moms really don't. It's like that commercial. Moms really don't have sick days.
I feel like everybody remembers the first time they were sick as a mom, because I remember mine so clearly too.
Yeah, because you have to show up.
Yeah, and I remember Mario was out of town. We were in Kansas City. We didn't have like any friends or family living there at the time. Not that it really would have mattered because we were sick.
Yeah.
But I was throwing up. The baby was, I just had to like lay him on the floor while I was like throwing up and he was crying. And I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like it was such an eye-opening experience.
I feel like I've had moments like that where I'm like holding a bucket and like myself on the other side. But
I feel like I think we both thought motherhood is harder than we thought it would be in a lot of ways. And so I feel like when I see somebody else say motherhood is hard, I don't look at it as like a negative.
Yeah, well, and by saying like motherhood's hard too, it's not like you're not saying, oh, I hate this. I want to, like, it's still freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I would do it all over again no matter how hard it is.
Well, that's the part I think you don't need to explain.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like the moms know. And it's literally, you can't even put it into words. The moments where you're just like, oh my God, this is my life. Like,
when I think people see like moms complaining a lot, and it's not even, it's like a vent session. And I think one thing too people really don't understand is motherhood can be super lonely and isolating. And so when you do have the chance to like vent about these things, you want to.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
And I don't even think it's like complaining. I like the word venting because it does. And I know that like everyone has very different journeys, but I feel like social media does play a big part in it. And people don't realize how much social media has changed over the last 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that we started was because social media made us feel like we were crappy moms. Nobody was venting. Nobody was saying it was hard. It all felt picture perfect, except for our conversations with each other. And
it made me paint all my walls white, which was the worst decision for having 3 kids I've ever done.
It made me stress about my house being like Instagram perfect.
Your house was Instagram perfect.
I know, and now I don't care.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. Like and I wasn't even on Instagram then.
Yeah.
But
it's beautiful.
That's, what you consume, and it does take a toll. And so I see these people who aren't moms yet consuming motherhood content, and they're saying that it's negative and it scares them. Well, honestly, Betsy, I feel like we're doing you a favor because now you're going to come in and be like, oh, it's not as hard as I thought.
Well, and I think, too, that's one of the hardest parts about being a first-time mom is that's when you almost put the most pressure on yourself because you have this, like, I don't know the word for it, pre-whatever idea of, like, what you want to be. Like, I was not going to do a lot of things before I became a mom. But you come in, and then when it's harder than you expected, you're like, wait, no, I'm not perfect. Like the people I'm seeing online. And so it's, once you have that second kid, I swear, you like realize you're like, okay, nope, it's survival.
Wait, but I think that's a really important line, what you just said. And I think both of us have experienced that is when you were a first-time mom, the pressure that you put on yourself is so much more than you do 7 years later or however many years later.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Well, thank you.
But it's so true. Yeah, I don't
Well, and
know.
sometimes it breaks my heart too when I see first time moms. And it's not like I'm judging them at all because I was that. Like, I had such bad postpartum anxiety and I was all concerned about like milestones
Oh
and
my
all
god,
those
you
kind of
stressed me
things.
out. You'd be like, "What are you doing? Is he walking? Is he doing
Yeah.
this?" I'm like, "Can we just chill?"
When I see like people that are like, just like really like the second they do anything like posting it, it's almost like even like when your baby's born and you're like, oh, 9 pounds. Why do we need to tell people how much our baby
It's
weighs?
so weird.
And it's always the people that have bigger babies that post it. And
Yeah.
it's like,
It's like you're going to the butcher and getting a steak or something. Like, why are we posting the
I'll
weight?
have one that's 9 pounds, 6 ounces, please. Fatten that boy up.
Nice ribeye.
A meaty one. But seriously, and then I think when you learn that, like, for example, all three of my kids are so different. My oldest was always in like the 99th percentile, and my middle is in the 8th, and there wasn't much difference in their lives, obviously. And so I think there's just something, if my second would have been in the 8th percentile as a first time mom, I would have panicked.
Yeah.
But because I'm like, "Oh,
You were
they're gonna
panicked
grow."
about every percentile, the 99th,
Yeah,
everything.
like, I, like, watched the growth chart, like, I'm like, "Wait, what does it mean?" And she, like, did a dip, and I think I really burnt myself. I definitely had postpartum
Yeah, and
anxiety.
we laugh at it, but it's obviously looking back now that we see the
Yeah.
anxiety, but it's if you're going through postpartum
Well,
anxiety,
that's the
it's
hardest thing,
very,
like,
very real.
not until you look back, you
Yeah.
realize you're like, "Holy crap, not everybody goes down the stairs on their butt when they're holding their baby."
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild.
It's so wild. So it's very interesting to me the people who are consuming motherhood content before they're moms and then saying that it's negative. And I'm just gonna say, if you're consuming that content and it makes you really not want to be a mom, then maybe you should think about it.
You don't have to.
I mean, I just feel like then you come into, and I know people probably have different perspectives, and my perspective is different because when I came into motherhood, it was perfect. Social media, being the
Mhm.
perfect mom. But if you're coming in and you already know I wish I knew some of the hardships coming
Yeah.
in. And maybe I wouldn't have felt, I mean, it truly, if it wasn't for you and like, I remember standing in my kitchen and we would talk on the phone for like an hour and a half each day because Justin was traveling too, like at
Yeah.
the time. And it was like, okay, she's struggling too. And that just made me feel okay because every time I scrolled social media, it made me feel like shit.
Well, and I think that's, like, an important thing too with the social media stuff is every once in a while reflecting on your page of, like, who you're whatever it's called, who you're following
Hmm.
is so important because a lot of times we just follow, 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 and we're like even, like, with us, if for some reason you watch our stuff and you're like, "Ugh, that made me feel bad," we don't want you to follow us.
Like, perfect example, like, I know the last time I got pregnant, somebody messaged me and said that they had to unfollow me
Mhm.
because of that. I was like, "Yes, you should unfollow me.
Yeah.
You can come back if you want to, but if not, like, you have to protect, like, what you're consuming on social media," and I, way too late, ended up figuring that out and unfollowing some of these influencers who had the picture perfect stuff.
Mhm. And even it's so crazy because it's not, like, so transparent until you, like, really look at it, and all of a sudden you're like, "Wait, I am thinking about how clean my house is a little bit more. I
Mhm.
am thinking about this a little bit more," but we really don't reflect on that a lot, so I
Yeah,
think it's important.
totally. Um
Note, so go check.
Yeah, go check who you're following and make sure that it makes you feel good. And I also feel like I think we do a really good job, just pat ourselves on the back, where we talk about the hardships, but it's not negative. We
Yeah.
laugh about it, we find the positive, and I think that's really important. But also, like, I don't know how you can really put the highs into like a video,
Yeah.
because they happen in like the messy moments where you look like crap. There's no cameras,
They're
there's
the
no.
glimmers.
Yeah, and, like, you don't really need to explain that part because that's so special,
Yeah.
and nobody feels. I think it's just like a "if you know it, you know it" thing with
Well, and
moms.
that's the thing when you see a mom venting, you know that they are obsessed with their children
Yeah,
as a mom from a mom's perspective.
or they're probably not venting because they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I do think there is something with that where
Yeah, I just I think if you're not a mom, just, like, don't consume motherhood content.
Or just be very careful of what you're consuming.
Yeah.
Because I think the people that aren't moms, the aesthetic people are a little bit
Yeah, I
they
think
do wanna follow those people
yeah.
because it's so cutesy, and they're like, "Oh, that's I'm gonna be the picture perfect mom." I too was once gonna be the picture perfect mom,
Yeah.
and
I do look it's just so funny, my house is so messy now, and it used to not be messy.
yeah.
I used to obsess with it being perfect. I wanted to be, like, the perfect wife, perfect mom. I had 1 kid, and now I look back and I really think social media was a huge reason for that.
Yeah.
And I think my thoughts of even without social media is, you know, what I thought motherhood was like. Like, I don't remember moms when they have little toddlers and little babies.
Mhm.
You remember them later on just driving carpool and
Looking
you were a child.
cute,
You don't
yeah.
really understand it.
Yeah.
And I think that was very eye-opening to me, because, I mean, I feel like we touched on some of the reasons that it's hard, but I feel like probably the biggest one for why it's hard, and we talk about this all the time, but I think when I also became a parent, I thought I was gonna be parenting. Like, I was gonna be making rules, they were
Yeah.
gonna listen to me. The hardest part about parenting is regulating yourself.
Mhm.
Because as soon as you become a parent, your unhealed traumas from your childhood
Yeah.
come up, and that is the hardest part.
Yeah, it's like unlearning your first behavior, and one thing that I've been working on in therapy is applauding myself for my second reaction.
That's
So, like, my first reaction might be like, if and then my second reaction is breathe, get it together. And it's okay that that's my first reaction
mhm.
because I'm undoing a learned behavior,
Wait,
right?
that's so good.
If my second action corrects, or even if I mess up a tiny bit, at least applauding yourself for your second reaction is super like healing because you're like, I am working on it. Like, it's so hard to undo something learned.
That's such a good tip. I'm gonna use that.
Fine, you can have it.
I love that. But it is so true, like, and I think that's something that our generation does really well is apologizing. So a lot
Hmm.
of times that is the second reaction.
We talk about that a lot. Like, going back and being like, "Yeah, sorry, mommy shouldn't have yelled that way," is huge.
Yeah.
And if we're doing this step, then the next generation hopefully won't even do it in the first
Hopefully they'll be
place.
even better, but it is even it's just so hard. I mean, ADD I'm very ADHD and trying to parent and regulate my own emotions that I never learned how to is so hard, and you're sleep deprived, you're busy, you're
Touched out, like, please don't
touched
freaking
out.
touch me anymore. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually made a video one time that a bunch of people related to where I was on the porch and I was like, I had to put my baby toddler in her crib and I had to go outside for a second because I was like freaking out. And it was hard because I'm sitting out there on the porch thinking, am I traumatizing her more by letting her scream in her crib? Or is it going to be more traumatizing for me, overstimulated, about to lose it, to like make a mistake? And
Yeah.
like, and the fact that I even feel this is the other thing, the fact that I even feel like, "Oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that." No, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah. You
Like,
made the right choice, and I think we have all been there as moms, but not a lot of people talk about it.
yeah. I remember in the hospital them making us watch a video about, like, not shaking your baby, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Is this really something people need
You're
to
like, "Duh."
watch?" Like, yeah, obviously you don't shake your baby,
Yeah.
and I remember, like, day 4 or 5 at home, it's, like, the middle of the night, we all haven't slept, and I was like, that's the first time I ever asked Justin to I ever tapped out, and I
Mhm.
was like, "That's why they make you watch the video about not shaking the baby, because when you haven't slept and you're just exhausted and you're just like, 'Stop crying,' you know?" And I think a lot of moms are afraid to admit it,
Mhm.
but I also think admitting it is the only way to then heal from it.
Yes, absolutely, and, like, if you don't admit it and you don't acknowledge it, then you can't move to the next step either.
Exactly.
So,
Just
the
get it
other
out.
thing is I feel like people are starting to talk, like, a little bit more about motherhood being hard, but I remember seeing this video recently, and I can't even remember where it was from, but they were saying that, like, marriage isn't hard, and marriage is easy.
Which automatically gives me like red flags, red flags, red flags. So I'm like, okay, well, if some people don't think it's hard, like, what does that say?
I I mean, I think it's very hand in hand with motherhood, and I just found that really interesting because of course marriage is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Like you're again, it's not about this isn't about your kids. This isn't about your husband. It's about you.
Yeah.
You're sleep deprived, you're dysregulated,
And it's
you're
the same
busy.
thing as the motherhood hard.
Yeah, there's bills coming in, there's taking care of maybe parents, there's so many hard things, there's losses, like, but
Yeah.
I feel like people are really scared to talk about marriage because even more so than motherhood.
Mhm.
Like, if you're talking about it, then that means like you're gonna get a divorce.
Yeah. And I think too, like, if you even like on the we recently went on this like influencer trip, even like talking to some of everybody has something hard in their marriage.
Mhm.
And so I think like the idea of like never talking about it too is it's the same thing. It's you're not never gonna grow unless you like admit.
Yeah, and you're doing your life with another person.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard, and a lot of times that is, like, outside factors. I feel like if marriage has never been hard, then you've had a very easy life too,
Yeah.
because it's usually in the tougher moments of life shit that it makes your marriage harder.
And kind of like what we said before, you're both also unlearning your childhood trauma at the same time. So like you're both learning more about yourself while trying to do this together while also being different people and you're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, let's climb this ladder together." So like saying that you're both going to make it equally to like the top of the ladder perfectly hand in hand without like a little bump in the road is such a wild concept because mathematically, I'm not really good at math, but in my little vision in my brain, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
I also think, like, again, it goes back to, like, the marathon example, like, the hardest part of the journey,
mhm,
like, the bumps in the road, if you can overcome those, make you even stronger.
mhm.
Like, I don't know when I think back to, like, the hard parts of my marriage, getting over that spot also made us so much stronger,
Yeah,
and I think that's the point of life
yeah,
is to grow, like, nobody wants to stay the same. We
yeah.
wanna change, we wanna grow, we wanna get better, and these things that are hard are what enables you to do that.
When I also think it comes hand in hand with motherhood because motherhood is hard, it's emotional, all of that, and so you already have all of these emotions going on, and like let's be honest, having kids is so hard on your relationship.
Mhm,
Like it's so hard, and so like having these thoughts that like you're so emotional, you're not so happy, and then again with the social media stuff, you're seeing these like picture perfect couples on social media, and you're like, well, does this mean we're not meant to be?
I think I have a theory.
Okay, what's your
This is
theory?
gonna
Oh
piss people
God.
off. Remember, you're not allowed to judge me. The people who post about their marriage being perfect have the most problems, because why else would you need outside validation of your marriage
Yeah,
on social I mean,
that's
obviously,
true.
like, once in a while, a post of, like,
Yeah,
"Hey, he did this really great thing,"
yeah. Let's round of applause.
is
Yeah, like
fine, but if you are constantly trying to validate and show it on social media,
Mhm.
I feel like there's something
I feel
there.
like that goes beyond social media too because they put on such a perfect front all the time, and like when you're like in like a girls group or something, and you like are talking about it, and then one person's like, "Oh, I don't know," like
Yeah.
that's
If you don't
there's
say that your
something.
husband is so fucking annoying sometimes, then
Yeah,
I don't trust you.
yeah. I mean, literally this morning when I woke up, the second I opened my eyes, dude, I was like, "Oh, I hate you."
What is up with that? Like,
So
farting
gross.
first thing in the morning, it's so unnecessary. That's hilarious.
But I think like I think what we need to take away from like and like what Sammy and I, since we've had these kind of conversations so many times, like what we're taking away from like it is hard. Motherhood, marriage, all of it, it's hard and hard's not bad. Like what are your biggest takeaways from those?
I mean, I just think it's we have to stop this narrative that saying something is hard is negative and it's bad. Because I think the second part of it is kind of like what you said with the apologizing. And what's the
Yeah.
second thing? Okay, it's hard, but how do we grow from it? And I feel like there's nothing that catapults you into growth like motherhood.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. It's so freaking hard. I've been cussing a lot. So fucking hard.
Is that right?
But that's the cool part. Like, what if it was easy? Wouldn't that be so weird?
Yeah. And I think like when you have the great moments, like once again, like because like accomplishing something, when you have those great moments or your kids do something that you're like, "Oh, I am raising a good human,"
Yeah.
like it's like it makes those wins so high. Yeah, I mean, I also think though too, one of my biggest things like comparison is the thief of joy. And so
Mhm.
constantly comparing yourself to somebody else who has a different life and a different situation and different
And you're
everything.
probably only seeing like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea
Yeah.
what is underneath.
Yeah. And so I think when you're consuming social media or even just like looking at your friend's marriage, we've got to stop comparing marriages because
You just don't know what is all there. And
yeah.
I feel like,
And everyone's marriage is so different. So comparing is insane,
yeah, absolutely. If you want to vent about motherhood,
Or if you
you know
ever
where to
just
go.
want to talk shit about your husbands, come on into our DMs and yeah.
But I really do. I do think the point that people need to understand is that people just get so pissed off when you say that it's hard that they don't even keep listening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's the second point. It's the hard creates the growth. It's the hard that makes it worth it. If everything was easy all the time, the moments wouldn't be so beautiful when they're so beautiful.
That's so true.
So,
Way to get deep with it.
I know. All right.
All right. There's a wrap on our second podcast.
Okay.
I
That
got
was
to
good
pee
enough.
so bad.